Welcome back to the Fish Vet Files Season 2. So today we're going to be sharing two of our largest ponds that are actually owned by father and son. Both of these clients have been with us for several years, and for the most part their ponds have been fairly uneventful. Both have had some unique health challenges from year to year, and you probably will recognize one of these ponds from our previous season of the Fish Vet Files, featuring our lovely little dropsy fish in this very, very large pond. So starting with that pond, they have had a very long history of just some minor issues here and there. A lot of the times this pond is just a little bit problems with parasites. They are kind of out in the backwoods of Girderville. This is an area in Napa known for their wine, so with lots of open fields. The pond is very deep. It's 12 feet deep. As you saw in the video, catching fish is a little bit of a challenge. I was really mean to some of my students and try to catch fish out of here. Spoiler alert, nobody caught anything. It's just one of those skills that you build up over time. Normally with this large pond, you can use a seine net, which I do use for his dad's pond. That'll basically kind of divide the pond in half. But with a 12 feet deep pond, and my net's only 8 feet deep, obviously that's not going to work very well. So anyway, we have had other fish in this pond for some minor health issues here and there. Unfortunately, we have had to euthanize a couple due to cancers, including our unfortunate little dropsy guy. Ended up having a liver tumor in another one of their koi, which we haven't seen. Maybe once or twice since. Little bit different diagnosis on the ultrasound. With the liver tumor, it tends to be fairly diffuse throughout the coelomic cavity. So again, with koi, they don't really have a standard liver that's like lobulated and in one area. They have a lot more of hepatopancreas that will kind of follow the intestines here and there. So again, with those liver tumors, it was everywhere. It was these dark green, gross tumors that were all throughout the coelomic cavity. I was just having problems finding them all. So unfortunate for him. But again, with this pond, we've mostly just had a recurring parasite issue and some water chemistry issues. So this pond is on a continuous overflow. So given its size, there's water constantly moving into this pond, which obviously makes treating it a little bit tricky because you have to maintain a certain concentration of drugs in the water in order to effectively treat the parasite. So obviously you turn that off, your filtration is going to have to keep up, and although this has a very nice filtration system, these fish are really big, and they've gotten bigger over the years. So certainly that might struggle a little tiny bit. And if you're in an area that is prone to droughts, you're not going to have a lot of water for this giant pond. So it's going to be a balance of how well we can keep the water versus how much water they literally have to truck in to keep this pond happy. So thankfully, haven't had any issues for a while, knock on wood. Usually we'll see them once a year just to do a general health check, make sure everything's going just fine. They had another pond that was kind of off to the side. It was fortunately on a hill, and the hill started eroding away with some of these heavy rains, and there was a little spot next to the pond where the concrete was slowly separating little by little. So obviously, rather than get to the point where that pond is literally going to fall off the side, we took all the fish and moved them up to the big pond, and they were very happy with that. Some of the biggest goldfish I've ever seen in my life, because they have the room and resources to grow big and strong and happy. So thankfully, everyone's doing good. Now in the father's pond, fish are thrilled. Fish are doing just great. Their pond is actually a converted swimming pool, literally a pool that they have custom built to keep these fish happy. So it has a little bridge in the middle that has a bunch of plants on it that I used to get in with waders to try to catch the fish under. I brought my aunt with me one time because I was a little worried for my safety, but For now, we've just been able to, again, we have the same net, which you can kind of see across the pond. And we'll throw that, and whoever ends up in the shallow end is getting an exam. So sometimes we get lucky. Biggest problem in this pond is they are so happy they're making a lot more fish, which, sure, fine, you got a swimming pool, but eventually you're going to max out how many fish can go in there. And they have, at least at my last check, at least 5 generations. Again, sign of a happy pond is making more fish, but you're going to run out of room. And then, unfortunately, we had this fish last fall that presented with this body shape. And apparently it happened very suddenly. And he, again, this is what he looked like grossly. So, again, we want to take radiographs to see what's going on. And this fish has a 90-degree turn in his tail. Right angle. Ha! Did that wrong. So, how did this happen so quickly? Well, as fish grow, especially if, you got a big pond, you got lots of resources, any issue that they had when they were little is going to become that much more prominent. So again, this might have started as a tiny, tiny little defect in his tail peduncle that as the fish grew, that part of tissue did not. So again, what started as a little curve, as he got bigger, kind of contracted down and made a bigger curve. So again, likely something that this fish was born with. We are keeping a close eye on him for now. We are giving him some sinking food because there are some really big fish in this pond, and it is deep. It's probably another 12-footer in the deep end, but trying to get up to the surface when you can't swim really well is just really hard. So we're going to try to do the best we can for him. He's still in the pond. There is another pond out front. That's a lot shallower, but with his mobility issues, he'd probably be a sitting duck for any predators coming by. So, I've loved working with both father and son ponds. They both have their very unique challenges, and hopefully they will be doing well for years to come. We have asked about how to keep the ladies from producing more eggs in this pond. We looked into some implants, but the amount of fish that will require implants does not make this financially feasible, especially because we're not really sure if it would work or not, but they've done it in other species. So we shall see. Again, sign of a happy pond if they're making more, they just need to knock it off a little bit. Okay. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next week.